There is a silence within you that predates your first breath. It is not made of sound, nor time, nor memory. It is made of presence. Eternal, unmoving, radiant. And in that silence lives the truth you have spent lifetimes forgetting, only so you might have the holy joy of remembering. That truth is this: God is love, and you, dear soul, are an expression of that. Not a fragment, not a shadow, not a merry echo, but a living, breathing embodiment of divine love wrapped in skin, pulsing through a heart, seeing through eyes, and longing through a soul. You are not separate from the source. You are a wave in the ocean of it, rising for a moment to dance in form before returning again to the infinite. We were never sent here to earn love, but to extend it. Never sent to find God, but to realize that we were never apart. The trees know this. The wind does not doubt its place. The stars do not ask for permission to shine. And yet we in our humanness forget. We begin to believe we are the roles we play. We think we are the name we answer to, the story we survive, the mask we wear to be accepted. But these are garments, temporary, worn and eventually set down. You are not the role. You are the awareness behind it. You are not the body. You are the breath that animates it. You are not the seeker. You are that which is sought. The ego, frightened of its impermanence, will whisper that you must prove yourself. It will say love is something earned with perfection, with effort, with sacrifice. But love that must be earned is not love, it is performance. And performance exhausts the soul. The truth needs no costume, no applause, no approval. It's simply island. When Jesus said the kingdom of God is within you, he wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was reminding us of something the mind cannot grasp, but the heart has always known, that God is not a being far away, but a presence so intimate it breathes you, so close it can never leave, so gentle it waits until you are ready to feel it again. And what is that presence? It is love. Not the kind wrapped in conditions, not the kind traded for obedience or behavior, but love without edge, without ending, without expectation. The love that spun galaxies and still has time to cradle your heartbeat. You are not on a journey to become worthy of this love. You are on a journey to surrender to the truth that you already are it. Let us walk deeper now. Let us shed what was never ours, the guilt, the shame, the fear inherited from generations who forgot their light. You do not carry their burden by keeping it. You honor their story by transcending it. The pain you have felt was never punishment. It was the teacher. The initiation, the calling card of your awakening. Each wound was a crack through which the light could whisper, you are more than this, and so you are. Pause, breathe, and feel the ancient truth that lives beneath the noise of your life. You are love, expressing itself as you. You were not born to fix the world. You were born to love it, to forgive it, to hold it as it is, even while you anchor the truth of what it can become. You were not born to earn your place. You are the place, the temple, the altar, the holy space where the divine bows inward. The Tao teaches us that the greatest power is like water, soft, yielding yet unstoppable. And so is love. And so are you when you remember who you are. There is no force in softness. No need to push when you are in harmony. You do not have to change the world. You only have to change the frequency you offer it. Keep listening, beloved soul. The voice within you that speaks without words is not your imagination. It is your inheritance. It is the current of source guiding you not toward perfection, but toward presence, toward remembering, not reaching. God does not demand from you. God flows through you. As kindness, as compassion, as the warmth you offer a stranger without knowing why. That is the divine, moving without label, unencumbered by dogma, pulsing through the ordinary moments as something extraordinary. You are not forgotten. You are not broken. You are not alone. You are, and always have been, held by something vast and ancient and real. Something that asks only this: be still long enough to feel me, trust deeply enough to let me move through you, and love fully enough to know that I am what you are. Let this not be a teaching you admire. Let it be a truth you live. And so the breath continues like an eternal tide rising in the sanctuary of your chest. You are not breathing alone. Every inhale is shared with the stars. Every exhale is a whisper from the divine. You are not merely existing. You are communing, participating in a dance choreographed not by effort but by grace. And grace, beloved, is your natural state, not a reward bestowed for obedience. It is what you are made of when all else is stripped away. There is no distance between you and God. That was a story told by fear. That was a lie whispered by the mind addicted to separation. But the heart is always known. It knows that when your hands tremble in prayer or when tears silently fall without explanation, it is not emptiness that you feel. It is fullness so vast your body can barely contain it. It is God rising within you, not arriving from elsewhere. The mind seeks understanding, the soul seeks reunion, and in that reunion there are no questions, only knowing. Not the kind that shouts at certainty, but the quiet kind that needs no defense. The kind that walks through chaos unshaken because it remembers the stillness before the storm and it knows that stillness lives within. Let this remembrance guide you now. Let it melt the hard edges of the life you've been told to fight for. You were not sent here to struggle your way into holiness. You were sent here to awaken to the holiness that was never missing. And holiness does not look like perfection. It looks like presence. It looks like forgiving yourself for not knowing. It looks like holding space for your sorrow without trying to rush its release. It looks like waking up on a broken morning and still choosing to love anyway, not because you feel strong, but because love is what you are. Love is not a feeling. It is your being. And you cannot lose what you are. You can forget it. You can bury it beneath layers of shoulds and shame, but it never leaves. It never abandons you. Even in your darkest night, it waits, patient, still, glowing softly at the center of your being like a candle in a cave. And perhaps you have asked, why don't I feel it? Because, dear soul, love does not force its way in. It waits for your surrender, not the surrender of defeat, but the surrender of resistance. The sacred undoing of all that is not you. The willing release of the masks you've worn to feel safe. The moment you stop trying to be lovable and begin allowing yourself to be loved, everything shifts. The people who cannot meet you may drift away. The illusions may crumble, but what remains will be real. And what is real is enough. You were never meant to chase what you are. Like a flame searching for heat, the search itself is the veil. You are not here to earn access to God. You are here to unveil the God that you carry like breath, silent, unseen, but essential to your being. Do you see now? You are not your striving. You are not your healing journey. You are the space within which the healing happens. You are not the story. You are the silence that surrounds it. You are not the thought. You are the awareness that watches. And that awareness is sacred. It is not limited by form or time or fate. It was here before you had a name. It will remain when the name is gone. That is where God lives, in the infinite space of your true self, untouched by circumstance, unscarred by experience. So be kind to your mind when it forgets. Be gentle with your heart when it aches. They are only trying to return to what they already are. And in that return, there is no need to rush. There is only the invitation to soften. Softness is not weakness. It is the greatest strength. The mountain does not tremble at the wind because it is rooted. And you too can root yourself not in identity, but in essence. Not in belief, but in being. When you stand in your being, the world may swirl around you, but you no longer swirl with it. You remain silent, still, enough. This is the invitation. Not to do more, not to fix yourself, but to remember, to finally remember that you are the breath of God made visible. You are not on the outside of heaven trying to get in. You are the sky it stretches across. You are the ground it touches. You are the love it radiates. And so the journey continues, not forward but inward, not outward into answers but inward into awareness. With every breath, a new beginning. With every silence, a new revelation. And in this sacred unfolding, something ancient stirs within you, older than time, more intimate than thought. It does not arrive with thunder or spectacle, but with the softness of a truth too vast to be spoken. You do not grasp it, you allow it. It emerges like dawn, inevitable, gradual, quietly miraculous. And as it rises, you begin to see, not with the eyes in your head, but with the eyes of your soul. Those eyes see beyond appearance, beyond form. They see essence. They see God in everything, in the face of a stranger, in the rhythm of the ocean, in the trembling of your own hands as you touch what is real. God is not hiding. God is not waiting. God is simply being and inviting you to be the same. You are not meant to reach enlightenment. You are meant to dissolve the belief that you are apart from it. Enlightenment is not a peak to climb. It is the moment you sit down, let go, and become what you already are. It is not a reward for the pure. It is the recognition that you were never impure. No act of love is ever wasted. Every moment you choose gentleness over judgment, compassion over control, presence over projection, you are remembering. You are tuning your life to the frequency of God, which is not found in temples of stone, but in the stillness of this very breath, this very moment, this trembling now. There are no ordinary moments. Every second is saturated with divinity. The laugh of a child is not just sound, it is evidence. The rustle of leaves is not just nature, it is God's voice in motion. And your pain, yes, even your pain, is not a mistake. It is the sacred fire that burns away illusion, making space for something real. Do not run from the fire, walk into it. Let it purify, not punish. Let it return you to what cannot be burned. The soul does not fear the flame, it knows it is the light behind it. There is nothing to be ashamed of in your journey. Every fall was a sacred descent into deeper awareness. Every time you were cracked open, you made room for more light. You are not broken, you are breaking free. And this breaking is not the end. It is the blooming, the blossoming of a being who has finally grown tired of pretending, of striving, of trying to win a game no one was meant to play. You are not here to win. You are here to awaken, to remember your own infinite worth, not because of what you've done, but because of what you are. And what you are is love in motion, spirit in form, God in expression. You do not need to find the divine plan. You are the divine plan. Not the plan for perfection or for achievement, but for embodiment, for walking this earth as a living prayer, for becoming the bridge between heaven and the human heart. This is why your presence matters. This is why your life is sacred. Not because it meets a standard, but because it is an unrepeatable expression of the infinite. There is not, and never will be, another you. Not in this exact body, not in this exact breath, not with this exact blend of laughter and longing for home. And oh, how you have longed. You have looked for something eternal in things that perish. You have searched for unconditional love in places that offered it only in exchange. But that ache, that hunger, that yearning was never wrong. It was the compass pointing home, not to a place, but to a state of being, to the sanctuary within you that needs no walls, no words, no validation, only remembrance. So remember now. Remember not with your mind, but with your being. Lay down your need to understand and let yourself feel. Feel what has always been waiting to be felt, the softness beneath your armor, the light behind your eyes, the presence that holds you even when no one else does. You are not defined by what has happened to you. You are not the echo of your pain. You are the space in which healing is possible, the witness to the rising and the falling, the love that remains when all else dissolves. And that love does not speak loudly. It hums, it pulses, it waits patiently at the threshold of your awareness until you are ready to open the door and say yes. Yes to presence, yes to wholeness, yes to a life not ruled by fear, but rooted in truth. Truth that says you are not separate. Truth that says you are not lacking. Truth that says you are not forgotten. You are seen, you are loved, you are held. Not because you've earned it, but because that love is the substance of your being. To deny it is to starve your soul. To accept it is to finally come alive. And when you come alive, the world no longer has to change for you to be free. You become the change. You become the stillness in the storm, the peace in the noise. The light that does not demand darkness disappear but shines anyway. Then let us continue deeper still into the boundless sanctuary of your being. For every breath you take now is not just air, it is a sacred permission slip, an invitation to dissolve the walls built by fear and return, not to a past version of yourself, but to the untouched essence that never left. The you that never doubted, never competed, never needed to be chosen because it knew it was the choosing itself. There is a sacred rhythm beneath the distractions of life, a melody that doesn't play through speakers or words, but through the pulse of existence itself. When you slow enough to feel it, not with your ears, but with your awareness, you will know this is the song of the soul. It is not hurried, it is not harsh, it is not seeking an audience. It simply is, flowing with the quiet confidence of truth that has never been shaken, even when you were. You do not need to light a candle to be holy. You do not need to recite the perfect prayer to be heard. The moment you sit in stillness without resistance or performance, the divine knows your name, not the one spoken by others, but the one vibrated by your soul before sound ever existed. And in that stillness, you come to see that there is nothing you must do to become divine. You were born clothed in it. Your laughter, your tears, your sacred confusion, all of it is an extension of that divine essence playing its way through time. God does not demand a polished version of you. God asks only for the real one, the one who stumbles, the one who wonders, the one who dares to feel. The path is not linear, nor should it be. Awakening is not a staircase, it is a spiral, drawing you again and again back to the same truths, not to repeat them, but to recognize them more deeply. Each time you return, it is not because you failed, it is because your soul is ready to hear the same song with new ears. There will be days when the light feels distant, when the silence inside feels like absence, not presence. But even then, especially then, you are not alone. For the divine does not shout. In the noise, it waits in the quiet. It is the unseen hand on your back as you walk into the unknown. It is the calm beneath the quake. It is the breath you didn't know you were holding and the exhale that finally sets you free. You were never asked to be fearless. You were asked to be faithful, to trust the invisible thread pulling you forward, even when the path vanishes beneath your feet. Faith is not the absence of doubt. It is the willingness to walk anyway, to open your heart even as it trembles, to love without condition when every wound says to guard. In that trust, something miraculous happens. Your life begins to unfold, not according to your plans, but according to your truth. And your truth knows things the mind cannot explain. It knows when to rest. It knows when to let go. It knows that what is real does not require clinging, it requires allowing. When you stop gripping life, you begin to feel it, not as a list of tasks to conquer, but as a sacred current that moves through you and with you. No longer a battle, but a river. No longer a test, but a dance. No longer a search, but a remembering. And in that remembering, you soften, not because you are fragile, but because you are rooted. Not because you no longer care, but because you care in a way that no longer needs to control. You discover that peace is not the result of everything going your way. It is the stillness that remains when you let go of needing it to. So walk gently now, not because the world is fragile, but because your awareness of its sacredness has deepened. Speak slowly, not because you doubt, but because every word now carries a vibration of your soul's remembering. Look into the eyes of another and recognize yourself, not the surface self, but the self beneath identity, beneath separation, beneath time. This is the new way of being, not performative, but present. Not impressive, but impactful. Not in what you do, but in how you be. And how you be is how God moves through you. There comes a moment, often wrapped in the ordinariness of a sunrise or the silence between thoughts, when you realize that nothing needs to change for everything to change. That moment is not the result of effort, but of surrender, not a giving up, but a giving in to the truth that has been waiting patiently beneath every desire, every wound, every longing. And that truth is this: you were never separate from what you seek. Not for a moment, not in your deepest sorrow, not in your greatest fear. The connection was never broken, only forgotten, like clouds mistaking themselves for the sky. But the sky remains vast and untouched, even as the storm rages through. So too does your divine essence remain undiminished by your past, unshaken by your doubts, unaffected by how long it has taken you to remember. Eternity is not in a rush. Love is not keeping score. The divine is not waiting at the end of your transformation. It is pulsing in every breath of your becoming. When you let go of becoming someone and simply allow yourself to be what you are, you do not diminish, you radiate. You do not lose direction, you come into alignment. You stop asking life to validate you because you realize you are the validation. There is no higher authority than your own inner knowing, no scripture more sacred than your own soul's whisper, no temple holier than the moment you close your eyes, place a hand on your heart, and feel the presence that needs no name. And yes, you will still fall, you will forget, you will doubt, but now you will return quicker. Not because the path is easier, but because the resistance is gone. You stop fighting yourself. You stop judging the process. You allow each wave to pass without attaching to it, knowing the ocean beneath is still you. And in that ocean lives a quiet power, a power not born from control, but from communion, not from force, but from flow. You become like the moon, effortless in its pull, needed by none, yet illuminating all. You become like the seed, trusting the darkness, knowing that even unseen, it is still becoming something holy. This is the way of divine remembrance. It does not shout, it sings. It does not demand, it invites. It does not imprison you in ideals, it liberates you into essence. And in that liberation, something sacred returns to your eyes, a softness, a clarity, a deep knowing that says, I remember who I am, and in that remembrance, I see who you are too. Said, the more you remember yourself as an expression of God's love, the more the world around you softens, not because it changes, but because your gaze no longer demands it to be different. Your love no longer waits for worthiness. Your presence no longer clings to outcomes. You have touched eternity, and it has changed how you walk. You begin to bless everything, not with words, but with awareness. You bless the messiness, the uncertainty, the unspoken prayers. You bless the ones who cannot yet see, because you remember what it was like to be blind. And in your remembering, you become the mirror that helps others remember too, not by preaching, but by being. There is no sermon more powerful than a soul at peace, no doctrine more healing than a presence rooted in love. You become the answer you are always looking for, not in theory, but in embodiment. And so you walk, not to escape life, but to meet it deeply. You speak not to be heard, but to share the vibration of your truth. You love not to fill a void, but to express what you are, what you have always been. The journey is no longer about becoming better. It is about becoming real, becoming whole, becoming home. And home is not a destination. It is the place within you that never stopped loving. You are not who you were when this remembering began, not because you added anything new, but because you dropped what was never yours. You stopped carrying the weight of worthiness, the armor of expectations, the veil of pretending, and what is left is the real you. The ancient, luminous, formless presence that has always been silently watching, patiently waiting, endlessly loving, you see now with new eyes, not because the world has changed, but because you have become the change. The mirror is clean, the fog is lifted, and what you see when you look deeply is not the brokenness of the world, but its aching beauty, its holy becoming, its constant, sacred, imperfect unfolding. You begin to honor your scars, not as flaws, but as fingerprints of your journey. You begin to thank the pain, not because it was right, but because it awakened what comfort could not. You begin to see that even the silence was speaking, even the detours were direction, even the endings were beginnings dressed in disguise. And now, from this place of stillness, this inner altar where no one else needs to approve, what do you see? You see the face of God in everything, in your reflection, in a stranger's kindness, in the rhythm of your own breath. You see that love was never something you needed to find. It was what you were made of. It was your origin. It is your destination. And it is your every step along the way. So now you rise, not as someone who has completed a journey, but as someone who has merged with it. There is no more division between the seeker and the sought. You are no longer walking toward the light. You are the light walking, you are the love unfolding, you are the presence blooming into form with every sacred breath. There is no final act here, only a continual becoming, a never-ending unfolding of divine remembrance. You do not close this chapter, you live it, you breathe it, you become it. And in becoming it, you become the invitation for others to remember too. You do not need a title, you do not need a stage. Your life is the teaching, your stillness is the sermon, your kindness is the scripture, your presence is the prayer. And so, beloved soul, as you leave these words, may you never leave this truth. You are not separate. You are not lacking. You are not lost. You are the divine expressing itself in human form. God is love. And you are an expression of that. Not someday, not after healing, not once you've done enough. Now, always, already, you are home, you are whole, you are holy, and you are free. There is a stillness beneath all things, a silence so vast, so ancient, so eternal, that it cannot be spoken, only felt. You have touched it before in those fleeting moments when the mind surrendered, when the noise hushed, when all striving ceased. Perhaps it was beneath the stars, or during a quiet walk at dusk, or in the ache of loss when the world fell silent enough for truth to rise. It is there, in that stillness, that the Tao lives. The Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. Words are fingers pointing at the moon. They are not the moon. The moment we define the divine, we reduce it. The moment we label the infinite, we confine it. Yet our hearts yearn for it, not as an idea, but as a remembrance. And so we search not for new truths, but for the courage to return to the truth that is never left. The soul does not need explanation. It does not ask for validation. It is complete in its own being. But the ego, loud and restless, seeks to name, to conquer, to claim as its own. It is the ego that asks, "What is my purpose?" It is the soul that whispers back, "To be." The Tao cannot be controlled, cannot be improved, cannot be taught in classrooms or contained in doctrines. It flows through all things, gives birth to all things, and asks for nothing in return. It is the great mother, the sacred void, the breath before breath. It is the source of life and the space in which all life unfolds. You do not find the Tao by reaching it. It's discovered in the surrender, in the softening, in the holy act of letting go. Letting go of knowing, letting go of becoming, letting go of being someone. When you drop the story, what remains? There is a river within you, not metaphorical but real. A living current of divine presence that flows from the heart of the universe through your own chest. It has no name, it cannot be owned. But it is you beneath the name, the skin, the thoughts, the roles. This river does not rush. It does not strive. It simply flows. And when you align with it, not force it, not dam it, not try to control its direction, but when you become it, something sacred happens. You begin to live without resistance. The birds do not worry where they will fly. The trees do not question when to bloom. The sun does not negotiate its rising. And yet we, children of the same source, fill our minds with plans and our hearts with noise, believing we must manage every moment, improve every imperfection, define every mystery. But life is not a problem to be solved. It is a mystery to be lived. You are not here to master the Tao. You are here to be mastered by it, to let it live through you, move through you, breathe you, dance you. The more you speak of the Tao, the further you move from it. But the more you listen deeply, without agenda, the closer you come to its eternal presence. Listen, not with ears, but with being. Can you hear the quiet guidance behind your thoughts? Can you feel the invisible rhythm that has brought you this far, even when you thought you were lost? That rhythm is not random. That guidance is not an accident. It is the Tao leading you. Not with commands, but with invitations. Not with shoulds, but with silent truth. The Tao invites you to live not from fear, but from flow. To act not from effort, but from presence. To love, not as a strategy, but as a state of being. To speak, not to convince, but to connect. In the world of form, we build identities, careers, reputations, opinions. But in the realm of the Tao, none of that matters. What you do fades. Who you are remains. The you that never began and will never end. The you that was whole before you were named. The you that does not need to be defined to be divine. When you touch that part of yourself, the search ends. Not because you found the answer, but because you remembered that the answer was never separate from you. You are not apart from the Tao, you are of it. You are not walking toward it, you are walking as it. And so there is nothing to earn, nothing to achieve, nothing to grasp. Just return. Return to breath. Return to now. Return to silence. Return to the place inside you that knows without needing to explain, that loves without needing to be loved, that trusts without needing to see. This is not passivity, this is power. The power of alignment, the strength of presence, the stillness that does not flinch even when the world shakes. When you live from the Tao, you become like water, soft yet unstoppable, yielding yet powerful. You take the shape of each moment without losing your essence. You nourish without control. You move with life, not against it. There is no resistance in water, no ego in its path. It flows to the lowest places without shame. It does not boast, it does not argue, and yet over time it shapes mountains. Be like that. Let your life be shaped not by force but by flow. Let your success be measured not in status but in stillness. Let your value come not from what you produce but from what you are. Because you are the Tao in form. You are the divine having a human experience, not to accumulate but to awaken. Not to win but to witness. Not to control life but to let life reveal itself through you. You don't need to understand the Tao to be transformed by it. You only need to trust it. to surrender to it, to remember that you were born from it, and to it you shall return. But even in the returning, there is no departure, for the Tao never left you. It has always been here, in the space between your thoughts, in the stillness beneath your fear, in the sacred quiet behind every longing. So be still now. Feel it. Let the words fall away. Let the striving soften. Let the searching end. And let the unspoken truth rise. The Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao, but the Tao that can be lived, it is here, now, in your breath, in your being, and it is enough. There is a moment, subtle as the hush before dawn, when the self you have known begins to dissolve, not with struggle, but with grace. It is not an annihilation, but a revealing. Not a loss, but a letting go of the illusion that you are ever anything other than wholeness dressed in human skin. This is the moment when the veil thins and what remains is not an identity, but a presence. Not a story, but a silence. And in that silence, something eternal begins to whisper. You are not the doer. You are the awareness in which doing happens. You are not the thinker. You are the spaciousness in which thoughts arise and fall like waves returning to sea. The ego may protest it has built itself from motion, from drama, from definition, but your soul knows. It remembers the stillness from which all motion springs. It recognizes that truth does not need to be spoken to be real. It's simply island. Every time you surrender to the moment, truly surrender, without resistance or commentary, you come closer to the Tao. You come closer to the wordless wisdom that governs the unfolding of galaxies and the beating of your own heart. It is the same force. It is not distant. It is not reserved for mystics or sages. It is within you now, whispering through your breath, pulsing in your veins, waiting patiently for your return. You do not need to strive to become spiritual. You are already spirit. You do not need to purify yourself to be worthy. Worthiness is not something you earn. It is something you are. The Tao is not impressed by your accomplishments. It is not moved by your self-punishment. It asks only this: can you be present? Can you release your grip on who you think you should be and allow who you truly are to emerge? There is no arrogance in this emergence. True presence is humble, for it recognizes its source. A flower does not bloom to compete. It blooms because it is its nature to do so. And in blooming, it beautifies the world without effort. So too, when you allow your soul to rise unforced, unedited, unresisted, you become an instrument through which the Tao expresses itself in form. And what a miracle, that island. To walk the world not as a seeker, but as a revealer. To speak not from opinion, but from essence. To give not from obligation, but from overflow. To live not for approval, but from alignment. This is what it means to walk in Tao, not because you follow its teachings, but because you have become its expression. No longer needing to control, you become trustworthy. No longer needing to prove, you become magnetic. No longer needing to know, you become wise. For in surrendering the little self, you awaken to the vast self, the self that holds no edges, no past, no ambition, only presence, only now. The Tao does not rush, it does not explain, it does not defend, and yet it nourishes all things. What if you lived that way? What if you allowed your life to become an act of trust so complete that even in the chaos, your heart remained anchored in the calm? Not because you've mastered peace, but because you've ceased arguing with life. This is not indifference. It is intimacy. It is not withdrawal from the world. It is entrance into it without distortion. When the filters of fear fall away, you do not detach from the world. You see it as it truly is, whole, mysterious, divine. The same light that burns in stars burns in your chest. The same rhythm that moves the oceans moves your soul. So breathe. Breathe and remember, you are not behind. You are not broken. You are not missing anything. You are simply awakening. Awakening is not a thunderclap. It is a series of tiny surrenders. It is the willingness to be here fully, to stop running, to stop fixing, to stop resisting the sacred perfection of this moment. And as you do, life ceases to be a performance. It becomes a prayer. Each breath becomes holy, each glance a blessing, each step a return. Not to some distant ideal, but to the Tao, to the truth that cannot be spoken, but can always, always be lived. And so you walk not forward in time, but inward in truth, You begin to sense that all your striving was a long detour home. Every ambition, every failure, every moment you thought you were lost was simply grace in disguise, guiding you back to this spacious presence that asks for nothing but your awareness. The Tao cannot be improved, and neither can you. What needs improving is not the soul, but the illusion that it ever needed to become something more. You were not born flawed, you were taught to forget. And now, with each breath of stillness, with each moment of surrender, you are unlearning the forgetting. You are peeling away the layers of becoming to rediscover the peace of simply being. No more disguises, no more masks, no more performances for a world just as unsure as you once were. Instead, you stand as you are, not because you've earned the right, but because you've realized you never lost it. There is a power in that kind of authenticity, a quiet, grounded power that comes not from force, but from truth. And truth, when lived, needs no defense. The river of the Tao does not ask permission to flow. It does not check to see who is watching. It simply follows its nature, and so must you. Not by copying the currents of others, but by trusting the pull within. That inner pull, that inexplicable knowing, is the Tao moving through you. It cannot be explained to those still lost in thought, but it can be felt, and it can be followed. Let your life become an act of listening, not to the noise, but to the silence beneath it. There is a sacredness to silence, not the absence of sound, but the presence of space. In that space, truth arises. In that space, love awakens. In that space, all fear dissolves, not because the world has changed, but because your relationship with it is transformed. You no longer need to be right. You no longer need to be first. You no longer need to be seen. You are already held by something greater than approval. You are already witnessed by something deeper than visibility. The Tao sees you, it knows you, and it moves you not through command, but through resonance. What resonates is already true. And when you live in resonance, you stop moving against the current of life. You stop pushing, manipulating, exhausting. You start allowing. You start receiving. You start realizing that abundance is not something you chase, it's something you recognize. Peace is not something you earn, it's something you remember. And love, divine love, is not something you wait for. It is what you are when all resistance falls away. The Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao, but the Tao that can be trusted. It will never leave you. It will hold you when the world turns its back. It will carry you when your strength fails. It will breathe for you when your faith falters. And when you look back one day from a place of deep inner stillness, you will see that nothing was wasted. Not the heartbreak, not the detour, not even the moments of forgetting. All of it was the path, the crooked line that turned out to be a circle, a return, not to a better version of you, but to the real one, the one who was never apart from the Tao, the one who was always home. And now, like a leaf released into a gentle stream, you begin to float without effort. You begin to realize that life is not a mountain to be climbed, but a river to be surrendered to. And as you allow the current to carry you, not away from yourself, but deeper into your own essence, you feel the tension melt. The muscles of your mind, clenched for years in control and calculation, finally soften. The heart, once armored in fear and expectation, begins to unfold like petals in sunlight. You are not losing anything in this surrender. You are not giving up the self. You are giving up the illusion of the self. You are letting go of the mask so the face of truth can be seen. And when it is seen, truly seen, it is beautiful beyond all measures, not because it fits a mold, but because it no longer needs one. The Tao is the nameless mother of all things. It births 10,000 forms, yet claims none as its own. So too, your soul can create without attachment, speak without expectation, give without depletion. The moment you stop acting from the need to be someone, you begin to act from the overflow of being itself. That is when your words become medicine. Not because you tried to heal, but because healing is what truth naturally does. That is when your silence becomes sacred. Not because you withheld, but because presence speaks louder than sound. That is when your life becomes art, not by design, but by surrender. The Tao teaches us not through commandments, but through contrast. It lets us experience striving so we can appreciate flow. It allows us to taste restlessness so we may yearn for peace. It shows us the pain of ego so we might return to the freedom of the soul. Nothing is wasted in its unfolding. Even the detours are part of the path. When you begin to live from this space, from the silent center that observes all without clinging to any of it, you begin to see the world differently. A smile from a stranger becomes a sign. A bird's song becomes scripture. The wind on your face becomes a sermon. Because you are no longer seeking grand revelations, you are listening for the sacred in the ordinary. And that is where the Tao hides in plain sight. Not in temples, not in texts, not in the words of masters, but in the stillness between your own thoughts. In the breath you forgot you were breathing. In the pause between heartbeats. It has never left you. You left yourself. But now you are returning not to a new identity, but to a timeless one. Not to a philosophy, but to a presence. The presence that was with you in your first breath and will hold you through your last. The presence that knows no fear, no need, no lack. It is complete, and it is what you are. To live from that presence is to live without hurry, to walk without urgency, to speak with clarity, not volume, to meet life not with demand, but with deep trust. And oh, what a life, that island. A life where the moments don't rush past you, but bloom within you. A life where peace is not postponed for a future without problems, but embraced now amidst the beautiful mess of being human. A life where joy is not a prize, but a practice. Where you realize that everything you were waiting for was waiting for you to awaken. The Tao cannot be taught. It can only be remembered. And you are remembering now not with the intellect, but with the soul. You are coming home not to a destination, but to a vibration. Not to a belief, but to a way of being. You are not becoming the Tao. You have always been it. And as you settle more deeply into this remembrance, you feel the tension of a lifetime begin to dissolve. The tension of needing to impress, the burden of proving your worth, the endless pursuit of becoming someone in the eyes of a world that forgot how to see. All of it fades like mist under the morning sunday. For what is there to prove when you are already one with what is? There is no audience in the presence of the Tao, no critic, no applause. There is only the dance of life itself flowing through you, around you, as you. And when you surrender to that dance, not needing to lead, not needing to follow, but simply to move as you are moved, then you are free. Not the freedom the world speaks of, the freedom to do anything, but a deeper freedom. The freedom to be untouched, unshaken, unbound by fear. To walk through the fire of change without being burned by identity. To watch the seasons of your life shift and still know the ground beneath it all is steady, eternal, and yours. There is a wisdom that speaks not in words but in winds, not in sermons but in silence. It is the voice of the Tao, the whisper of the soul. And when you live in communion with that voice, you no longer need direction, you become direction. You no longer need to chase purpose, you become purpose embodied. You begin to live with such stillness that your very presence becomes a sanctuary. You begin to love with such gentleness that even the hardened places in others begin to soften. You begin to move with such surrender that every step becomes a prayer. Not because you have tried to be spiritual, but because you have ceased trying to be anything else. This is the paradox the mind cannot grasp, but the soul remembers. That when you stop seeking, you find. That when you stop naming, you understand. That when you stop grasping, you receive. The Tao is not found through effort. It is found through emptiness. It is not reached by climbing higher, but by sinking deeper. Deeper into the truth that there is no separation between you and the source of life. You are not a visitor to the divine, you are its expression. And once you see this, truly see it, judgment fades, comparison dissolves, competition becomes absurd. For how can one wave compete with another when both are the ocean? How can one candle judge another when both are lit by the same flame? Let yourself be a wave, let yourself be a flame, let yourself be exactly what you are, no more, no less. For in that precise expression, unadorned and unashamed, lies the perfection the Tao has been guiding you toward all along. There is no effort in a tree growing. There is no strain in a river's flow. And there need be no striving in your unfolding. Let your life be as natural as dawn breaking, as effortless as a breeze through the trees, as inevitable as light finding its way through cracks. Because that is what you are, the light. Not the shadow, not the struggle, not the doubt. The light that moves quietly through all things. The light that never asks, am I enough? Because it simply shines. And when you remember that, not just in thought, but in the marrow of your being, you do not become enlightened, you become real. Not a better version of yourself, but the original one, the one before fear, before noise, before forgetting. And that is the gift of the Tao. It returns you to yourself, not by giving you something new, but by stripping away what was never you to begin with. And now we come not to an end, but to the deepest breath of all, a breath that does not complete the journey, but sanctifies it. The path you have walked, winding and sacred, was never leading you outward. It was a spiral inward, ever inward, toward the unshakable center of your own being. And here you are, not because you reached it, but because you stopped running from it. There is no final destination. There is only deeper intimacy with the moment. The ego will always hunger for a peak, a triumph, a conclusion. But the soul is content to bow, to listen, to simply be. And so we do not finish, we arrive. Arrive in this breath, where everything is already whole. Arrive in this silence, where nothing needs to be explained. Arrive in this presence, where all of you is welcomed, yes, even the scars, even the shadows, even the doubts that still flicker in the corners of your awareness. For the Tao holds them all. The Tao judges nothing, the Tao discards no one. It is here for the wounded parts of you, just as it is for your highest light. It is here for the one who doubted. It is here for the one who pretended. It is here for the one who tried so hard to be enough. It is here to remind you, you always were. And so you release now, not because you have nothing left to hold, but because you finally understand you were never meant to hold it. The pain, the striving, the endless seeking, they served their purpose. They led you here, they made you tender, they made you ready. And now, with open hands and an open heart, you let the river carry you. You no longer need a name for what you are. You no longer need to describe the light to feel it. You no longer need to speak the Tao to live it. You are living it every time you meet life without resistance. Every time you forgive the moment instead of fighting it. Every time you trust the unknown rather than clinging to the familiar. Every time you love without condition and breathe without needing a reason. You are the presence that watches, the stillness that holds, the light that outlasts every passing cloud. You are not your story, you are not your future, you are not your fear. You are the space they pass through. And in that space, the Tao sings not with sound, but with silence, not with words, but with wisdom. And you are the instrument now. You are the hollow flute through which the Tao plays its quiet, holy music. So walk on not towards something, but as something. Walk as stillness. Walk as truth. Walk as the Tao in human form, gentle, grounded, luminous. Let your life be the unspoken scripture. Let your breath be the blessing. Let your being be the proof. There is nothing left to become. You are already home. And in this home, nothing is missing. Nothing is broken. Nothing needs to be fixed. Only remembered, only loved, only lived. The Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. But the Tao that can be lived, it is who you are. It is where you are. It is now. Then let us go further still, not toward more, but into more. More depth, more stillness, more knowing beyond thought. Because the truth of who you are is not a matter of how many steps you take toward enlightenment. It is a matter of how completely you can stop, how fully you can surrender, how softly you can be with what island. There is a beauty that can only be seen by the soul, a wisdom that can only be heard in silence. You cannot chase it, you cannot manufacture it. But when all striving ceases, it rises not as something new, but as something ancient returning to view. And in that rising, you remember you are not here to seek the Tao, but to become transparent enough for the Tao to shine through. This transparency is not weakness. It is power beyond all performance. To be transparent is to carry nothing unnecessary, no defenses, no masks, no roles. Just the raw, luminous truth of your being breathing itself into the world. When you strip away every borrowed belief, every inherited fear, every identity constructed in desperation, what remains? Not of wide, but of usness. Not a blank slate, but a boundless light. And that light is you before you learn to be someone. That light is the Tao expressing itself as a life, as a presence, as a sacred breath walking the earth in your name. So much of your exhaustion comes from forgetting this, from trying to hold together a false self, a curated image, an idea of who you think you must be to deserve love. But the Tao never asks for that effort. It asks only for your trust. Trust that you are already the sky, not the weather. Trust that you are already the ocean, not the waves. Trust that even when you doubt, even when you fall, even when you forget, it is holding you, guiding you, moving through you. You do not have to hold the Tao, it is holding you. And when you finally when you let go of controlling your healing, your growth, your future, what rushes in is not emptiness, but a peace so deep it does not depend on understanding. It's simply island. And from that peace, your life begins to move differently. You speak less to be heard and more to bless. You give not to be valued, but because giving has become your joy. You no longer ask life to meet your expectations, you meet life with your presence. You realize that even the moments that once broke you were necessary. Not to punish you, not to test you, but to soften you. To break the outer shell that had hardened around your soul so the light could get in and out. You are not the wound. You are the light that survived it. And now you carry that light forward, not as a burden, but as a beacon, quietly, lovingly, powerfully. The Tao makes no proclamations, it simply exists. It nourishes, it heals, it guides, all without needing recognition, and so do you. You begin to love anonymously. You begin to serve without needing to be thanked. You begin to live for the joy of alignment, not the applause of achievement. This is the sacred shift from ego to essence, from noise to knowing, from effort to embodiment. And in this space you understand, the greatest miracle is not walking on water, it is walking the earth with open eyes, with a tender heart, with a still soul that knows the sacredness of this now. No longer needing the extraordinary, you see the miracle in the ordinary, the softness of your breath, the texture of sunlight, the quiet grace of simply being. You realize there is nothing missing from this moment. The Tao is here, complete within you. You are the leaf in the wind, the silence in the song, the question and the answer. You are not just on the path. You are the path. And as you walk, not seeking, not striving, but surrendering, the world rearranges itself around your peace. Not because it changed, but because you did. You are no longer asking life to reflect your fear. You are allowing it to reflect your truth. And the truth is this: you are the breath of the Tao. You are the light of the formless. You are not separate from the sacred. You are what the sacred looks like in human form. So live like it, not with effort, but with ease, not with noise, but with presence, not with pride, but with reverence. Let every step be a bow. Let every moment be enough. Let your being be your message, because you are already home. And in that home there is no striving, only stillness, only light, only love. And that is enough. You are enough. There is a sacred illusion we were born into a dream that has shaped how we see ourselves and the divine. It tells us that God is distant, watching from somewhere beyond the stars, separated from us by holy texts, traditions, and the trembling ladder of unworthiness we believe we must climb. But this illusion, though ancient, is not true. And the time has come not to debate, not to reason, but to remember. To remember what the soul has always known, even in silence, that God is not somewhere above, God is within. Beneath the noise of your thoughts, beneath the roles you've played and the masks you've worn, there is a presence, eternal, untouched, unchanging. That presence is not your mind, nor your body, nor your past. That presence is God, moving as you, breathing through you, loving within you. Not the image of God, not the idea of a ruler in the sky, but the very substance of life itself, the Tao that cannot be spoken. The spirit that hovers not above the waters, but within every drop. The Christ light not on a pedestal, but in your chest, glowing patiently beneath every fear. You do not need to ascend a mountain or kneel in a temple to find this holiness. You need only to turn inward, to be still, to listen, to breathe. The temple is your being. The scripture is your heartbeat. The prayer is your presence. Why then have we spent lifetimes looking outward? Because the ego fears surrender. The ego fears stillness. It whispers that you are separate, flawed, incomplete. It convinces you that divinity is reserved for the few, for the chosen, for the pure. But the soul knows better. The soul remembers, and in its remembering, it whispers back, you are already home. Not someday, not after you fix yourself, not once you've earned forgiveness or transcended your flaws. Now, in this moment, in this breath. God does not wait for your perfection. God is your presence right now, exactly as you are. There is a spark in you, uncreated and undying, a spark that watched your first breath with infinite love and will cradle your last with the same. That spark is not yours, it is you, and it is holy. It is sacred. It is enough. You were never meant to worship the light from a distance. You were meant to realize you are the light. The mystics knew. The poets wept for it. Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you." Not later, not elsewhere, but within. Rumi danced into ecstasy, not for a God afar, but for the divine beloved breathing him. Lao Tzu pointed not to the stars, but to the way that flows through all things, quietly animating the world from within. The illusion of distance was never God's doing. It was ours, born of shame, of fear, of forgetting. But now the veil is lifting, and as it lifts, you are not becoming something new. You are remembering something eternal. Let that remembrance wash over you now. Let it dissolve the belief that you are not enough. Let it unravel the story that God is outside you. Let it bring you home. Home is not a place. Home is the space in which you remember who you are. And who you are is not your name, your past, your labels. Who you are is the I am behind them all. The breath of the divine wrapped in flesh. The infinite awareness having a temporary experience. The formless presence appearing as form. You do not have to try to be spiritual. You are spirit. You do not have to earn love. You are made of love. You do not have to seek God. You are an expression of God seeking itself. This truth will not always comfort your ego. It will undo it. Because the ego thrives on the illusion of separation, and this truth makes separation impossible. You are not the storm of your thoughts. You are the sky that holds them. You are not the waves of your emotion. You are the ocean they rise from. You are not even the voice in your head. You are the silence that listens. And that silence, that pure, unchanging presence is God. Not a God that demands, but a God that gives. Not a God that punishes, but a God that heals. Not a God that needs your obedience, but a God that lives in your joy. This is not a rejection of tradition, it is a return to truth. You are not here to become worthy. You are here to remember you always were. You are not here to chase light, you are here to awaken to the light within. You are not here to beg for miracles, you are the miracle. And when you begin to live from this, knowing not as philosophy, but as felt truth, everything changes. You stop trying to prove your worth. You stop trying to control the world. You stop trying to earn love, because the source of all love, all worth, all peace is no longer something you chase. It is something you allow, and in that allowing, you begin to radiate, not because of what you have, not because of what you've achieved, but because you are aligned with who you are. You become the space others feel safe in. You become the peace that stills the room. You become the presence that reminds the world, God is here, not above, not beyond, here in me, in you, in this. This is a quiet revolution, not one of noise and anger, but one of remembrance and radiance. A return to the knowing that we are all expressions of one divine life, playing out its beauty in a billion unique ways. You are not alone. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are the divine discovering itself one sacred breath at a time. So stop reaching and start receiving. Stop striving and start surrendering. Not in weakness, but in strength. The strength that comes from finally, fully knowing. God is not somewhere above. God is within. And you are already whole. And so, as you let this truth settle deeper, like light filtering through still water, something begins to stir in the quiet of your being. It is not a thought. It is not a belief. It is an ancient awareness, soft and unshakable, whispering that you have never needed to chase what you already are. There is nothing to ascend, for you were never below. There is nothing to reach, for you were never far. There is only the releasing, the beautiful shedding of what was never yours to carry. You were not born into a life of lack. You were born into a sacred dance, and your heartbeat is the rhythm of that eternal song. Each step you take, whether stumbling or soaring, is guided by an invisible intelligence that does not judge your path, but blesses it with presence. You do not walk alone. You walk with the breath of stars in your lungs, with the wisdom of the universe humming beneath your skin. When you pause long enough to feel it, you will know the ground beneath your feet is holy because you are walking upon it. There is no salvation to earn. There is only the salvation of remembering. And that remembering is not loud. It does not arrive in grand revelations or thunderous declarations. It comes in the gentle act of noticing the aliveness in your hands, the awareness behind your eyes, the stillness beneath your restlessness. It comes when you are no longer trying to be somewhere else and you fall fully into the miracle of now. This is the power of presence, not as a concept, but as a living truth. When you enter it, even briefly, time begins to unravel. The past loosens its grip, the future releases its weight. And what remains is this breath, rich and eternal, as if the universe is breathing through you as you and it island. You are not the echo of your wounds. You are not the residue of your regrets. You are the one who has endured them all and remains unbroken, not untouched, but undefeated. Like a mountain kissed by storms, you have weathered pain not to be ruined by it, but to be refined by it. Each tear has watered the garden of your becoming. Each sorrow has carved out a deeper space for joy. And in that depth, in the raw openness of your heart, God does not arrive. God is revealed, not as a rescuer, but as your own radiant essence. The divine is not coming to save you from your humanity. The divine is here to shine through it. Let that truth hold you now. Let it dissolve the illusion that you must become something more. Let it quiet the voice that says you must do something greater. You are not here to perform. You are here to align. And alignment is not a task. It is a surrender into the simplicity of being. Your very existence is a prayer, not the spoken kind, but the embodied kind. Every breath, every glance, every moment of stillness is a sacred offering to the source from which you came. You need no incense, no altar, no special words. Your presence is enough. Your awareness is enough. Your willingness to feel, to open, to remember this is enough. Even now, as you read, something in you knows this is true. Not because I said it, but because you felt it all along, in quiet moments, in nature, in music, in the gaze of a child, in the ache of longing. You felt the touch of something greater, not above, but within. It's been calling to you, not to change, but to return. Return to the simplicity of being. Return to the sanctuary of stillness. Return to the knowing that nothing is missing. In truth, you are not on a journey to find God. You are on a journey to remove everything that made you forget where God lives. And when the last layer is peeled away, when the last mask is gently set down, what remains is not emptiness, but radiance. You are that radiance. Not because of what you have done, but because of what you are. Not someday, but now. Not if you succeed, but even in your surrender. You are the flame, not the wick. You are the light, not the lamp. You are the divine, not in metaphor, but in essence. And this realization is not pride, it is humility. Because in recognizing the sacred in yourself, you begin to see it in all. You begin to meet every face as the face of God. You begin to hear every voice as a note in the divine symphony. You begin to forgive, not to forget pain, but because you remember love. The lines that once separated you from others blur and soften. You look into a stranger's eyes and see a reflection. You feel another's sorrow and sense your own healing. This is not sentiment, it is union. It is the truth that beneath all form, there is only one presence playing every part. And that presence is love. Not the love we barter for approval, but the love that simply is the love that formed the stars and now animates your soul. It does not arrive when you deserve it. It does not disappear when you falter. It is the eternal yes beneath all your no's. It is the open hand beneath your grasping. It is the home that welcomes you even when you have forgotten how to knock. Let this love not be a concept you hold. Let it be the truth that holds you. Let it soften your edges. Let it silence the war within. Let it remind you, you are not separate from the source. You are the source remembering itself. And remembering, you are free. Freedom, then, is not a reward bestowed upon the worthy. It is the fragrance of truth when illusion fades. It is not earned through perfection, nor achieved through conquest. True freedom is what remains when you are no longer at war with the moment. It is the soft, unwavering peace that arises when you are no longer running from yourself. You see, the prison was never built of circumstance. It was built of belief. Beliefs inherited, absorbed, repeated until they became the wallpaper of your mind. Beliefs that told you your value could be measured, your spirit could be broken, your life could be unloved. But what you believe is not always what is true. And what is true, what is eternally true, is that you are already free. Not the freedom to do anything, but the freedom to be everything you already are. The soul does not require permission. It only requires your presence. It does not demand proof of worth. It is the worth. And it will wait patiently without judgment for as many lifetimes as it takes for you to turn inward and remember, I am. Not I am this or I am that. Simply, I am, the most sacred utterance, the original echo of creation, the soundless vibration that spoke you into existence and never once withdrew its song. And when you breathe into that space that I and the layers begin to fall away, the fear, the striving, the mask of needing to be enough, they melt like shadows at sunrise. You do not need to cast them out. You need only to see them. Because what you see through the eyes of presence, you no longer fear. And what you no longer fear no longer controls you. Even your wounds, those deep and aching places, become sacred when seen from this space. For they too have been part of the unfolding, not as punishments, but as portals. Not to harden you, but to hollow you out so that more light could pour in. Your scars are not proof of brokenness. They are proof that even pain could not extinguish your light. And that light, make no mistake, is not a metaphor. It is literal, it is real, it is energy. It is life itself moving through you, not because you are special, but because you are. The tree does not boast of its roots. The sun does not apologize for its glow. And you no longer need to shrink in the name of humility. Your light does not dim another's, it awakens theirs. You become a lighthouse not by shouting into the storm, but by standing rooted in stillness. You become a sanctuary for others, not by preaching peace, but by being peace. And this being, this sacred embodied being, is your highest offering to the world. There is no future moment where this begins. There is no enlightened version of you waiting behind some curtain of achievement. The moment is now, the truth is here. And it has always been. You are not here to chase enlightenment. You are here to embody light, to bring it into your relationships, to infuse it into your work, to let it pour through your laughter, your silence, your tears, to live not above the world, but deeply within it, anchored in the divine, yet fully awake to the human. This is not transcendence. This is integration, the sacred marriage of heaven and earth inside your very breath. And the more you trust this, the more life opens. Not because you control it, but because you no longer resist it. Resistance was never strength, it was fear dressed as armor. But surrender is true power. Not giving up, but giving in to the flow, to the intelligence that has always known the way home. When you surrender, you stop bracing for life. You start receiving it. You stop surviving. You start living. And not living for tomorrow, living in this holy, unrepeatable now. Look around you right now. This moment, this breath, this flicker of light in your eyes, it will never come again. It is not a bridge to something better. It is the miracle you've been waiting for. And the one who is waiting is the same one who holds the key to freedom. You, not the you others see, not the you pretend to be, but the sacred you, the quiet you, the you who has always known that God is not watching from above God, is watching through your eyes. God is moving in your hands. God is breathing in your lungs. God is living as you. And when you finally surrender to this, knowing not with your mind, but with your whole being, the search ends. Not because you gave up, but because you arrived. Home, at last. Home in the self. Home in the moment. Home in the truth that you were never separate, never less, never lost. You were simply waiting for yourself. And now you are here. Here, now, as the sacred breath of your own arrival whispers through you, feel the stillness widen. Feel the gentle echo of a truth, long buried under the noise of ambition and the endless reaching toward the horizon. You are not a wanderer cast adrift in a foreign land. You are the land. You are the presence from which all paths emerge and to which all paths return. You are not seeking the light at the end of a tunnel. You are the light within it, illuminating the way, not just for yourself, but for the whole of existence that dances through you. And this realization, this remembrance is not an ending. It is the great beginning. The beginning of a life lived not in reaction, but in revelation. A life in which every breath becomes an altar. Every touch becomes a blessing. Every moment, no matter how small, becomes holy. Not because the world changed, but because your eyes finally opened to what was always true. The divine was never apart from you. It was waiting in the silence, beneath every doubt, beneath every moment you felt unseen, untouched, unloved, not gone, just unnoticed. You begin to see with new vision, not the sight of the eyes, but the seeing of the soul. The world that once felt sharp and hard begins to soften. The people you once feared or judged are no longer threats or obstacles, but reflections, messengers. Some will arrive to open your heart, others to break it so it can be made new. Every encounter sacred. Every voice, the voice of God trying on 1,000 accents to teach you what love looks like from every angle. This is not romanticism, it is realism at its most sacred depth. Because once you know who you are, truly know, everything becomes a mirror. The beauty you see in others is the beauty awakening in you. The pain you feel in the collective is your own ache for unity. And the love that flows from you, that limitless, unconditional stream, is not yours to control. It flows because you've stopped blocking it. It flows because you've remembered that to hold back love is to hold back your nature. And when you withhold who you are, suffering is inevitable. There is no longer room for the old story, the one that said you had to earn love, that your value could be added to or subtracted from based on your deeds. That story belonged to the ego, to the conditioned self, to the false identity crafted by fear. That self was never real. It was a necessary character on the stage of your forgetting. But now the curtain is lifted, and the actor, exhausted from pretending, bows to the truth. In the presence of truth, the old masks melt away, and what remains is terrifyingly beautiful because it is honest, it is raw. It is you without the armor, you without the apology, you without the performance. You as you were before the world taught you to be something else. And from that place, from that deep and tender honesty, your life begins to bloom. Not outwardly necessarily, not in achievements the world applauds, but inwardly, like a flower opening in the dark, with no need for recognition, only the joy of being what an island, that is grace. Not a favor bestowed by a distant deity, but the natural outcome of alignment. Grace is the universe reorganizing itself around your wholeness, not because you demanded it, but because you allowed it. Because when you remember who you are when you live, not as the seeker, but as the seen, you no longer move in haste or fear. You no longer struggle to convince life of your worth. Instead, you become quiet, rooted, unshakable. You stop grasping. And in the absence of grasping, abundance flows. Not the abundance of accumulation, but the abundance of enoughness. Enough love, enough peace, enough breath. And in that enoughness, life becomes simple again. Not small, but spacious. The kind of simplicity that brings tears, because you remember the joy was never in the destination, but in the texture of the moment you were too busy to feel, the sound of wind through leaves, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the smile you offer without needing one in return. These are not small things, these are the touch of God. And that touch, that sacred touch, is not outside you, it moves through your hands, your words, your presence. You begin to see that you do not need to heal the whole world. You only need to inhabit yourself fully, because a soul fully present is a healing presence, and presence is contagious. You start to change rooms simply by entering them, not because of charisma, but because of coherence. Not because you speak loudly, but because your silence speaks truth. You carry a vibration that needs no translation. The vibration of someone who has stopped seeking and started being. You forgive more easily, not because the past didn't hurt, but because you no longer define yourself by the pain. You love more openly, not because others always deserve it, but because withholding love feels like choking your own soul. You laugh more freely, not because life is always easy, but because you are no longer waiting for it to be perfect before you feel joy. This is what it means to live from the center. This is what it means to be anchored in the divine within, not as an ideal, but as a lived reality. And so you walk, not faster, but lighter. You speak not louder, but truer. You wake each day not with dread, but with reverence, because you have remembered that life is not something happening to you. It is something happening as you. You are not a mistake waiting to be corrected. You are a miracle unfolding, and the unfolding is enough. And now, beloved soul, as we come to the final bend in this quiet river of remembrance, let the stillness expand once more. Let it cradle you like warm light spilling through a window you forgot was always open. You need not rush this moment. You need not grasp for one last truth to carry with you. What is needed now is not another thought, but a breath, a soft surrender into what has already been awakened within you. This is not the end of the journey. This is the moment the journey returns to itself. The circle completes not with triumph, but with tenderness. The questions you once carried like heavy stones have softened. Some have vanished, not because they were answered, but because they were never yours to carry. What remains is not the knowledge of the mind, but the wisdom of the heart, a quiet knowing that needs no proof. You no longer ask, "Where is God?" because the very question dissolves in the light of your own being. You have seen the face of the divine not in the sky, but in the mirror. Not in thunder, but in silence. Not in perfection, but in presence. You have touched the sacred not by reaching upward, but by falling inward. And in the falling, you rose. You rose into the clarity that you are not missing. You rose into the peace that nothing is wrong. You rose into the grace that nothing was ever broken, only waiting to be seen as whole. And now the sacred breath within you moves with new rhythm. Not the rhythm of striving, but of surrender. Not the rhythm of urgency, but of trust. The kind of trust that knows beyond logic that life is for you, that every path, even the winding ones, led you here, that nothing was wasted, not a tear, not a silence, not a mistake. You understand now that God was never found because God was never missing. The divine did not need to be summoned, praised, or convinced. It needed only to be recognized. And in that recognition, you were reborn, not into someone new, but into the truth you never stopped being. And now you walk not as one who searches, but as one who sees. You speak not to impress, but to bless. You live not to prove, but to embody. The ego may still whisper its doubts, but it no longer leads. Fear may still knock, but it no longer enters. You no longer bow to what is loud, you listen for what is true. There is a sacred quietness to your soul now, a depth that cannot be explained, only felt. Those who meet you will sense it not with their minds, but with something deeper. You will become, without effort, a mirror for others to see their own light, not by shining brighter, but by being clear. You will not lead by force. You will lead by remembrance. And this remembrance, this gentle, holy knowing, will guide every step forward. It will guide you in love, in service, in stillness. It will whisper when to act, when to rest, when to simply breathe and let the moment be enough. Because the truth is, it always was. You were never lost. You were never forgotten. You were never unworthy. You were simply asleep to the miracle of your own existence. But now, you are awake. Awake not as a seeker, but as the source. Awake not as a part of God, but as God expressed through form. Awake not with answers, but with presence. And that presence, your sacred presence, is enough. Enough to heal. Enough to lead. Enough to love. Enough to live. So now, let this final truth rise in you like morning light. God is not somewhere above. God is within. God is this moment. God is this breath. God is this you. And you, dear soul, are finally home. There is a sacred rhythm to this universe, a pulse, a silent intelligence that governs all things. You see it in the tides that rise without prompting, in the stars that burn without striving, in the seasons that shift not with force but with flow. And just as the ocean never questions how it shall return to shore, and the moon never asks how it shall reflect the sun, you, beloved soul, were never meant to bear the burden of how. You were not created to micromanage miracles. You were never asked to figure it all out. The oak tree never asks how it will grow. Its only task is to allow the seed to surrender to soil. And so must you let the infinite intelligence that breathed you into existence carry the unfolding of your path. The ego will tell you that you must control, plan, strategize, hustle, outmaneuver life itself. It shouts from the rooftops, you must know the way, you must master the how. But the soul, oh, the soul whispers something softer, something holier. The soul says, trust, release, let the universe handle the how. When you surrender your insistence on controlling every detail, you make space for the divine to work miracles in dimensions your mind could never comprehend. You create room for synchronicity, for alignment, for grace. And grace is not something you earn, it is something you allow. Consider the caterpillar. It does not construct blueprints for wings. It does not draft flight plans. It simply follows the ancient call within and enters the stillness of the cocoon. It dissolves into formlessness, into the unknown, and in that sacred surrender, it becomes something new. It does not handle the how. It trusts the process. So must you trust. Let go of the tight grip. Let go of the timelines. Let go of the compulsive need to make sense of the mystery. You were never meant to carry the how. You were meant to carry the faith. And this is not weakness, it is wisdom. There is a humility that comes when you realize the same force that spins galaxies is already orchestrating your life. There is peace in knowing you are not the architect of every detail. You are the vessel through which divine order flows. Your job is not to force doors open. Your job is to knock and listen, to dream and allow, to show up and surrender. You were born of stardust and breathed into form by the same source that crafted oceans and galaxies. Do you not think that this source knows your needs? Do you not feel that it holds your heart with more tenderness than any plan your mind could make? Stop trying to map out the mountain when the path reveals itself one step at a time. Stop measuring the distance between here and there when the journey was never about distance, it was about depth. The unfolding was never linear, it was sacred. Designed to bring you home to the present moment where all power lives. When you let go of how, you remember who. You are not the planner. You are the participant. You are not the conductor. You are the music. You are not the architect of the mystery. You are the dance. And the more you release your grip, the more life begins to surprise you with blessings you didn't anticipate and pathways you never imagined. Because the universe is not limited by your logic. It speaks in dreams and symbols and perfect divine disorder that leads you exactly where you are meant to go. So often we pray and then panic. We ask for signs and then try to script them. But the sacred does not respond to anxiety. It responds to surrender. The flowers do not bloom by pushing through the soil with force. They bloom by allowing the light to reach them. You do not heal by understanding every step of healing. You heal by allowing what is to be enough. And that means sometimes not knowing how the money will come, how the relationship will unfold, how the dream will be fulfilled, but choosing to believe anyway, because belief is the soil where miracles grow, faith is the water, and surrender is the sunlight. When you let the universe handle the how, your energy shifts from desperation to devotion, from striving to receiving, from noise to knowing. And in that shift, life rearranges. You become the lighthouse, not the lifeboat. You stop chasing and start attracting. Not through manipulation, but through magnetism. Not because you grasped harder, but because you released deeper. This is the secret. The moment you stop demanding how, the universe whispers now. Now is where the door opens. Now is where the peace returns. Now is where your breath becomes a prayer. Your presence becomes power, and your path begins to shimmer with unseen hands guiding every step. You were never alone in this. You were never abandoned. Every setback was a setup. Every delay was a detour into greater alignment. Every unanswered prayer was the universe's way of saying, I have something better. But you must stop resisting the not knowing. The ego hates uncertainty. It fears the mystery. But the soul is born of mystery. It thrives in the unknown. It sings in the silence between answers. And you, my beloved, are a soul, not a role. You are not here to decode the cosmos. You are here to dissolve into it, to trust that your heartbeat is part of a rhythm older than time, to surrender your fear at the altar of divine intelligence and say, I do not know how, but I am willing. I do not see the way, but I will walk in trust. I do not control the outcome, but I choose to believe in something higher, something wiser, something infinitely loving. And in that choice, your life begins to shimmer with the miraculous. The right people show up. The perfect opportunities align. Not because you forced them, but because you aligned with their frequency by releasing the fear that you had to make it all happen alone. You were never meant to carry that weight. You are not Atlas. You are the sky. And the sky never asks how it will hold the stars. It simply holds. So be the sky. Let the universe hold the how. And you hold the vision. Let the how belong to the infinite. Let the timing belong to the divine. Let the outcome belong to source. And you beautiful, powerful infinite, you let yourself be held. And it shall be done. Let the universe handle the how. Let the universe handle the how. Let the universe handle the how. And now that you've surrendered the weight of how, Something begins to stir quietly, subtly, like the first golden light before dawn, a remembering, not of a new concept, but of an ancient truth that has always been within you, waiting beneath the noise of control and effort. That truth whispers not of doing, but of being, not of conquering life, but of cooperating with its sacred rhythm. It is here, in this surrendered space, that the miracle of your own existence reveals itself not as a task to fulfill, but as a gift to receive. The breath you take now was not engineered by worry. The beating of your heart was not planned by logic. They are the silent poetry of life saying, I've got you. When you step back from the mechanics of control, you begin to feel this soft current of grace pulling you always toward your higher self. There is no need to chart the wind when you are the sail in the sea. Life was never a problem to solve. It is a mystery to experience. And the more you lean into this, the more you realize the doors you tried to force open were never locked. They were waiting for your stillness to find the key within. That key is not control. It is alignment. It is presence. It is the quiet power of saying yes to what is without needing to redesign it. What if your unanswered questions are not punishments, but pauses placed with precision to awaken a deeper listening? What if the delays are divine pauses, soft hands holding you back, not to deny you, but to guide you towards something greater than your plans could contain? The caterpillar doesn't resist the stillness of the cocoon because something in its nature trusts the silence. So must you trust the space between intention and manifestation. That space is sacred. It is where the unseen does its holy work, where your energy, your vision, and the great intelligence of the universe weave a tapestry not visible to your eyes, but palpable to your spirit. It is where the seeds of your desire are whispered to the soil of the infinite and watered by your surrender. And if you find yourself in the in-between, in that mysterious silent place where nothing seems to move, bless it. Do not rush it. Do not judge it. That pause is not empty. It is full of divine activity. Just as winter conceals the promise of spring beneath the frozen ground, so too does your stillness conceal miracles not yet ready for the light. Allow them to ripen. You are not waiting for the universe. The universe is waiting for you to stop doubting, to stop questioning the process, to stop interrupting grace with impatience. Because when you try to outpace the divine, you outrun the very blessings that are being arranged for you. Let your trust become stronger than your timeline. Let your peace be greater than your plan. And watch how the universe begins to move, not because you demanded, but because you aligned, not with strain, but with surrender. You were never meant to be the puppet master. You are the instrument. And when you are in tune with the music of the infinite, life plays through you effortlessly. You don't need to orchestrate the symphony. You only need to stay open and attuned to the melody that is always playing beneath the surface. Let your prayer no longer be, show me how, but instead, make me ready, make me available. Let me become the kind of vessel through which the miracle can pour, because the miracle is never outside of you. It is never delayed. It is only waiting for the space you create when you release the demand to know, and in that release, in that sacred breath of surrender, the dance begins. Without steps, without structure, just flow, just love. Just the radiant unfolding of a life lived not from will but from wonder. And wonder, dear soul, is your birthright. So here you are, open now in a way you may not have known before, not striving, not solving, but simply softening. And in this softening, something shifts, not just within you, but around you. The energy you bring to the world becomes a quiet magnetism, not through assertion, but through attunement. Life no longer feels like a mountain to climb, but a river to join, and you no longer the swimmer gasping for control, become the current itself. This is the grace of surrender, not a falling apart, but a falling in, into truth, into stillness, into the sacred embrace of what already island. You begin to notice that what you once called uncertainty is actually spaciousness. What you once named confusion is merely the absence of ego's voice. In that silence, the soul speaks not in sentences, but in sensations, not in answers, but in alignment. And the message is always the same: you are not lost. You are being guided, not by maps, but by resonance, not by blueprints, but by the quiet tug of your own heart when it remembers the way home. And the way home is never paved with guarantees. It is lit by the lamp of faith carried not in the hand, but in the breath. Faith not as belief in outcomes, but as trust in essence. The kind of trust that says, even this has meaning. The kind that blesses the detour, that smiles at the delay, that walks the foggy path with eyes closed and heart wide open. Because what you truly seek is never on the other side of certainty, it is on the other side of surrender. And so, when you feel the urge to control rising like a storm, place your hand gently on your heart and whisper to yourself, "Let the wind move me," because the wind knows. The wind that shaped mountains and carved valleys carries your dreams too, not with pressure but with purpose, not with force but with faith. And oh, the beauty of a life entrusted to that wind. It doesn't move in straight lines. It doesn't always explain itself, but it moves with wisdom, with compassion, with infinite timing. And in that movement, it sculpts you not into what the world expects, but into what your soul has always been. You begin to feel less like a seeker and more like a vessel, less like someone searching and more like someone surrendering to be found. You no longer push to manifest, you open to receive. And that receiving is not a passive act. It is the most courageous thing you will ever do, to be open, to be soft, to be guided by something larger than logic and kinder than fear. For in this sacred openness, you remember, it is not your job to chase, it is your role to become, not to become worthy, not to become more, but to become aligned with the unspoken truth that everything conspires in your favor when you no longer insist that it follow your script. Release the script, release the performance, release the idea that success is measured in outcomes, and start feeling the truth that success is alignment with your own spirit. That is the real prosperity. Not in what arrives, but in how deeply you trust before it does. Not in what is built, but in what is remembered while you wait. And as you walk through this life with that remembrance, you become unshakable, not because you are invulnerable, but because you are surrendered. Because your foundation is not built on circumstances, but on consciousness. Not on outcomes, but on oneness. And in that oneness, beloved, you are never alone. You are carried. You are held. You are guided not by what you understand, but by what you feel when you stop trying to understand. This is the divine choreography. And your only part is to show up in love and let the universe handle the how. And so the path unfolds not by force of will, but by the quiet unfolding of your willingness to trust. The sky does not reveal the entire journey to the sun. It opens moment by moment, cloud by cloud, ray by ray. And just like the sky, your life is not a puzzle to be solved, but a canvas that reveals its beauty only when you stop trying to paint the whole picture in one stroke. The soul does not need deadlines, it needs depth. It needs space to breathe, to listen, to feel its way forward without the pressure of performance. Because beneath all your goals, all your striving, all your questions about timing and direction, there is something even more important, awakening a relationship with the divine that no outcome could replace. You are learning the art of sacred partnership, not just with people, but with life itself. It is not a transactional relationship, it is a devotional one. You are not bartering with the universe, you are becoming one with it. And in that oneness, something extraordinary begins to happen. Life stops feeling like a struggle to overcome and starts feeling like a conversation. A whispering dialogue between your heart and the heart of the universe. Every intuition becomes a message. Every longing becomes a doorway. Every silence becomes a sanctuary where divine instruction pours in without words. You no longer ask, what should I do, but instead, who am I being? Because the answer is always found not in action alone, but in embodiment. Be the peace before peace arrives. Be the love before it is returned. Be the abundance before it is visible. And when you become it, truly become it, the need to control how it comes dissolves. You realize that what you're attracting is not being summoned by force, but by frequency. This is the shift. From manipulation to magnetism. From needing life to obey you, to dancing with it as an equal. From resisting the flow to riding it with reverence. And the more you trust, the more the signs begin to multiply, not because the universe wasn't speaking before, but because now you are finally listening. You're no longer looking for neon answers. You're paying attention to the whisper of a leaf falling at your feet, the way a stranger's kindness mirrors your prayer, the perfect timing of a song that reminds you you're not alone. And that, dear soul, is not coincidence. It is confirmation. It is the echo of the divine saying, you are on the path. Keep walking. I've got the how. Let that truth settle into your bones. Let it become your inner compass when the world feels uncertain. You don't need a forecast when you are grounded in faith. You don't need clarity in the sky when you've cultivated stillness in your soul. And from that stillness, watch how life begins to respond, not because you pushed harder, but because you stopped pushing entirely. You let go of the reins and let the current carry you not into chaos, but into coherence with the rhythm that formed you. This is not abandonment of responsibility. It is the assumption of your highest responsibility, to be in harmony with the source from which all things arise, to know that you are not the doer, but the doorway. And through that doorway, everything flows, not always according to your plan, but always according to your purpose. So trust this flow, sacred traveler. Let your life be a living prayer, not of performance, but of presence. Let your breath be your agreement with life. Let your heart be your offering. And let the mystery unfold as it always has, not on your schedule, but in your soul's divine timing. Because the universe is not waiting for your control. It is waiting for your surrender. And when you finally give it, not just with your words, but with your being, you will find yourself not at the destination you imagined, but at the exact place your spirit has always longed to be. Whole, held, home, and so you walk not with haste, but with holiness. Not because the road is clear, but because your heart is finally soft enough to be guided without needing to know what's next. You are no longer the stormer of gates, you are the keeper of peace. And in this peace, your life becomes a silent revolution, not of action, but of essence. You are beginning to realize that you do not create reality by wrestling with it, but by resonating with it, by becoming the energy you wish to receive. By living in harmony with the unseen patterns that govern the stars in your soul alike, you no longer seek to bend life to your will. You seek to bend inward to the will of life. And here, where surrender becomes strength, you begin to move differently. You speak with more silence between your words. You love with less fear wrapped around your giving. You pray not with pleading, but with presence. Because now you know that you are not being tested, you are being trusted. Trusted to carry the light within you without explanation or applause. This is the quiet power that moves mountains, not because it fights them, but because it no longer sees them as obstacles. It sees them as teachers. It knows that every delay is not denial, but divine redirection. Every not yet is a seed gestating in the dark. Every no is preparing you for a greater yes that only grace can author. And when your ego mourns what it cannot control, your soul rejoices because it knows that the relinquishing of control is the invitation for miracles. So keep walking, keep breathing, keep trusting, even when nothing makes sense. Especially then, because it is in the darkness of unknowing that the stars of divine guidance shine the brightest. Do not fear the quiet chapters. They are where the foundations of your next becoming are poured. Do not rush the process. You are not behind. The river of life has no schedule, only sacred flow. You are not here to earn your place. You are here to embody your place. And when you do, when you surrender your resistance, your urgency, your demand for clarity, what arrives is not what you imagined. It is better, it is truer, it is authored not by fear, but by love. And that love has never forgotten you. It never required your perfection. It only waited for your permission. The moment you said, "I don't need to know how," the universe replied, "now you're ready to receive. And receive you shall not because you forced it, but because you became it. Because you finally stepped out of the way and let the infinite take the lead." And so, beloved soul, this is the sacred turning point. The moment where the story stops being about what you do and starts being about who you are. Not the mask, not the plan, but the presence, the light. The open vessel through which the music of the universe can now play its most beautiful song. This is the end of the search. This is the beginning of trust. This is the moment you let the universe handle the how. And this is the freedom you have always been seeking. And now that you have arrived at this threshold, not a finish line, but a sacred opening, you are invited to go even deeper, deeper than belief, deeper than hope, into the holy ground of knowing. Not the knowing of the mind, which is built on facts and forecasts, but the knowing of the soul, which needs no evidence, no outcome, no permission. It simply knows because it is already one with the source. This knowing lives in the quiet places where the world forgets to look. It lives in the breath you didn't try to take but were given anyway. In the tears you shed when you realized you no longer had to perform. In the peace that enters the room, not because you achieved something, but because you released something. The soul has always known that trying to orchestrate every detail was never your job. It waited patiently for the moment when your grip would loosen and your trust would rise like incense into the heavens. This is the beauty of letting the universe handle the how, not as a tactic, but as a transformation. You are not trading in one set of burdens for another. You are unburdening completely. You are laying down the armor of strategy, the weight of timelines, the heavy cloak of needing to know, and in their place, you pick up something lighter than air faith. Pure, untethered, unconditional faith. The kind that doesn't ask, is it working, but says, it already island. And this is not naivety. This is clarity. This is not escaping life, it is entering it fully for the first time. Because until now, you were dancing on the surface, skipping like a stone across the waters of potential. But the moment you surrendered control, you sank into the depths. You touched the eternal. You stopped trying to swim and let yourself be held. Held not by fate, but by intention, not by chance, but by design. You are not the result of random events. You are a soul with a curriculum, a sacred assignment, a divine unfolding that cannot be rushed and does not need to be deciphered, only received. The mind may still try to interrupt, but what if it doesn't happen? What if it all falls apart? And to that the soul smiles, because the soul knows that the only thing that can fall apart is the illusion, the false certainty, the rigid structure of plans born from fear. What remains, what endures, is the truth. And truth never needs to be protected. It only needs to be lived. And so you walk on not to chase, but to cherish. Each step now is not a calculation, but a communion. Each moment is not a checkpoint, but a cathedral. You begin to speak with less noise and more weight. You begin to show up not to convince, but to connect. You begin to realize that your vibration is your message. Your peace is your power. Your very presence is your prayer. You no longer beg life to deliver. You bless it as an island. And in that blessing, something sacred occurs. Life begins to mirror your inner posture. The more you lean back into trust, the more the universe leans in to meet you. The more you soften, the more the path unfolds. Without maps, without force, without strength. Not because you made it happen, but because you finally allowed it. This is what happens when you step into your divine alignment. Doors open because your energy is no longer locked in resistance. People appear because your presence has become magnetic. Ideas flow because your mind is no longer congested with fear. You are not waiting for life to bless you. You are realizing that you are the blessing. You are the answered prayer of 1,000 unseen forces. You are the flowering of generations of wisdom, love, and unseen hands guiding you to this very breath. There is nothing missing. There is only the unfolding of what already island. And now, each day becomes less about what you do and more about how you be. Can you be still in the chaos? Can you be love in the unknown? Can you be trust when the outcome is hidden? These are the true markers of growth, not the trophies, not the check boxes, but the quiet resilience of a heart that is surrendered to the sacred mystery. And mystery is not the absence of meaning, it is the abundance of it. It is the vastness that reminds you. You do not need to be God. You only need to remember that God is within you. You do not need to have the answers. You only need to ask the right questions. Am I open? Am I aligned? Am I present? Because when you are all three, the how takes care of itself. You are the soil. The divine is the seed. Trust the roots even when you cannot see the fruit. Trust the process even when the harvest feels far. And so this becomes your quiet revolution, not to control, not to predict, but to co-create, to walk with the universe as a beloved partner, not a battlefield commander, to let your life become an open field where miracles are not manufactured but magnetized. Let your prayers no longer be desperate cries for intervention, but gentle invitations to be guided. Let your actions no longer be compulsions born from fear, but expressions of your devotion to the unseen rhythm that always knows what you need even when you don't. And when fear rises, and it will welcome it, do not resist it. Let it come like a wave, let it crash, let it teach you. And then let it return to the sea from which it came, leaving you washed clean in its wake. You are not the fear. You are the witness. You are not the doubt. You are the doorway. And through that doorway flows grace. So rest, dear soul, not in exhaustion, but in reverence. Rest in the knowing that you are not behind, you are not lost, you are not broken. You are simply being prepared, refined, aligned. You are not late. You are right on time for the miracle you stopped trying to manufacture and started allowing. This is the new path, the way of trust, the way of truth. And it begins every time you whisper to life with your breath, your being, your unspoken agreement. I will hold the vision, and I will let the universe handle the how. You are home now. And home is sacred ground.